As I've said, that today then we are going to move on then with our chapter 12. So far then we did look at how we do our reporting, then using then the three statements that we have, that is your quantity statement, cost statement, and allocation statement. We went as far then as looking also then to doing the report of a previous process. We've done that. We are comfortable with it. But if you've noticed, then by the time then we were doing then for the first process and your previous process, we always have then the closing balance. So we are going to talk about that then today in our today's session. But now that we've got those closing balances, what happens then when we come then for the second day of our production period, or then our second time, then it could be then depending then more how do we count then our production periods in the organization, because sometimes then we can do our reports and as per the week. So our second production period will be the week. So let me share then my screen so that you can be able to see what I'm presenting on my side. To demonstrate then what I'm talking about, we are going to look at the situation whereby we said that, okay, then this was then your first production. Was your production one? Let's say for argument's sake, then our production then in this particular company, we are running them then as per the week. So it was then your first week. For some reason, then in your first week, as you were starting then doing then your production, I'll simply draw then our production line. Let's say we started then with 10,000 units. But then for some reason, then at 60% of our production, we ended up having then our 2,000 units that we cannot finish then those units. So we've completed 8,000 units. So this was the situation then in your first week of your production. Now we come then to the second week. Now let's look again at what's going to happen then in our production line. This is then our production line. Every time then we start then at the week, our target is to reach 100% then with whatever units then that we have. But because then in week one, we haven't finished then 2,000 units. So when we open then for the second week at 60%, you will find that you've got 2,000 units. So on week one, this was your closing. Now on week two, this is going to be the opening. And again, then you've been provided with another 10,000 new units. That is your raw material at the beginning of the production. Now here is a challenge that we ended up facing. Now we look at then our production line. Can you see that now we've got two sets of units? We've got units that have already sitting there at 60%. In terms of the completion, 60% has already been done on 2,000 units. And you've got units that are at 0%, 10,000 units. They are still at 0%. We haven't done anything then with those units. Now the question will be, how are we going to run our production on week two? In other words, then which units then are we going to complete them first? Is there anyone then who can try then for us? Okay, then between this 10,000 units and 2,000 units, I think then we will start then with these units. Anyone who can try for us? I can guarantee then with this. We can start then. I didn't hear well then, You said then which units? I think it's Kwanele. 2,000 or 10,000?
2,000, sir, but I'm not sure. I think it's 2,000.
2,000 units. Okay, then we've got then the first suggestion. But let's first start then with 2,000 units. Don't mind then, Kwanele, then I'm not going to give you marks then for now. So you need not to be worried then to be sure or not sure. But then this is what Kwanele is suggesting for us. So, but how about starting then with these units, 2,000 units? Is there any other suggestion? And I can guarantee you guys that there is no wrong or right answer. Or there is no wrong answer. All the answers that we provide, they are right. Kwanele is right when he says that now we think then we can start then with 2,000 units. But someone else can come up and say that, okay, then I think then we can start then with 10,000 units instead of 2,000 units. That is still correct. Also, then if then we can start then with 10,000 units or the 2,000 units. To the point that we said that, okay, let us be flexible then in this. Let's allow the companies then to decide on their own on which then the units then they wish then to start with. Then to formalize then this, we give then this reporting system then the names. If then a particular company decided then to go with Kwanele's suggestion, we simply call that, okay, therefore that company is using the method that we call it first in, first out. So that's the method then that particular company that is using. I'm sorry, just a minute, please. Okay, now it stopped. There was just a noise that were. So that method, then we call it first in, first out, because Kwanele said that, okay, because then when we go then to second week, already we had 2,000 units sitting at 60%. So let's now don't touch 10,000 units. Let's complete the 2,000 units and finish the remaining 40% then to that 2,000 units. Hence, then we're calling this a first in, first out. But one I will suggest is saying, okay, now that then the 2,000 units is already at 60%, how about starting then with 10,000 units, the one that are sitting at 0%? Up until then, also these 10,000 units reach 60%. Then we combine, because these units, remember, they are identical. So we can merge them. So and after 60%, we can combine our units and carry on then with the production. And we accepted that and give again a name and say that that is weighted average method. So then those are the two methods that we ended up using. Once then in a particular week or production period, you've got then both opening and closing. The company has then to decide but which method then reporting method then they are going to make use of between weighted average method and first in, first out. I hope then this demonstration and explanation that I gave is quite clear then to you. Sometimes then you may find that out of these 10,000 units, then again at 40%, we'll say that, hey, we can't carry on then with again then another, let's say 5,000 units. So it means that on week 2, you are going to have a closing balance also. But then there's no issue about closing balance. We've already dealt about it. Then we know how then to deal with it. It's going to be an opening in our 3rd week in this particular case. So then this is how then we do, then we run our reporting. Yes, I can see then there's a hand, Kwanele.
Yes, I wanted to ask, if you don't mind, so can you please repeat the weighted average method, how they do it from the 10,000 units up until the reach 60%?
Okay. Remember, we said that, okay, I hope then it's clear about first in, first out, but we said that, okay, we're going to finish first with 2,000 units because those units are already sitting at 60%. Now, if then a company says, okay, now that we've got 2,000 units sitting at 60% and 10,000 units at 0%, rather than completing 2,000 units first, we decide then to say, okay, let's start with 10,000 units, the one that is sitting at 0%. Then we carry on with our production up until then the assumption is that these 10,000 units also reach then at that 60%. So once then the 10,000 units reaches to 60%, then I will add to the 2,000 units. So we've got a total now of 12,000 units at 60%. Hence, then we're calling this as a weighted average because we combine. If you still remember the principle then of weighted average, where we said that then we average then the cost and also then the units then to work out the cost per unit, as you've done that on chapter 3. So that's how then the weighted average method works. And when we wait, then your opening balance will always wait for your new units. That's what then I was trying then to say. I was just giving then, in fact, here then an overview of the slides then that we're going to look at, because they are going the slides that are going to take us through. Exactly. Okay, now what do we mean then when we talk of weighted average method and your first in, first out method? How then this reporting method then features in our process costing? So we will look at that. As you can see, then we're talking about process costing with opening and closing inventory. So if then I was lecturing, then I would say then I've done it because I've just gave you guys a summary of what then is being written here. So they say here, if you look at that first bullet point, partly completed units, that is your work in process at the end of one period. So remember then this one period that we talk about. So in our example, then it was that week 1. Then is the partly completed units at the start of the following period, that is on your week 2. So it's going to be your opening then when we move on then to week 2. Then opening work in process will have varying degree then of completion for material, labor and overheads. So what does this simply mean? It says, guys, then to you, then as we've seen then in the example that we've used in our demonstration, if you look at that example, looking at that 2,000 units, that 2,000 units is already sitting at 60%. It was a 60% by the time then we were closing week 1. And again, it's still sitting at 60% also at the beginning of week 2. We are not going to reverse and say, okay, now let's reverse the 60% that we've already done back then to 0%. No, we'll just then carry on and complete the remaining percentage then to that 2,000 units, which is then your 40%. So that's what then they are trying then to explain here then on these slides, when they say that opening work in process will have varying degree of completion. Then for material, labor and overheads, but then for simplicity things, then we've tended to just combine then the labor and conversion. And most of the time, we always say that material is there at 100%, so that you don't have then a quite number of calculations then to deal with. Then you just only focus on the conversions and in terms of the percentage of completion. Then the value of the work in process will be brought forward from the previous period. So we can't then dish it out. Then this brought forward value will represent the value of the work done in the previous period. When opening stock work in process exists, a decision must be made regarding the allocation method of the current period to determine the unit cost for the period. That's the decision that we're talking about. So the management has to sit down and take a decision. Okay, now which method are we going to adopt here? There are two methods to deal with this problem. Then they say that the first one is your weighted average method, followed by your first in, first out method. So those are the two methods that we make use of in order then to resolve the issue of having opening working process and closing working process. So using those two methods, then they do then assist us to be able to do things accordingly to what we wish. Now let's first look then at the first method, the weighted average method. What are the assumptions? What does that mean? How are we going to do our reporting using the weighted average method? Assume that the opening working process is completely merged with units added during this period and cannot be identified separately. Did you hear then that statement? And it takes us back, guys, to what then I was saying then to you, that look, this is the situation. If then you've got your production line, and this production line, you must try then, guys, then to make use of it. Is going then to assist you then to have a better analysis of what took place in your production. You've got then the 10,000 units at the beginning, and in 60%, you've got the 2,000 units. So what I've said to you, as this statement said, that we assume that the opening working process is completely merged or combined with the new units. So all in all, what we're saying is we are going then to work then with 10,000 units up until the 10,000 units also reaches 60%. Then we combine those units then with the opening that we have that is sitting at 60% already. Production units and cost of the current period are combined with production units and cost of previous period. Equivalent units are calculated as follows. So it's going to be your units completed and transferred to the next process of finished goods, plus your equivalent units that you have then in your closing. Then you can be able to work out your closing working process. So basically then you need then to just add a bit then of that weighted average principle then that we have. Okay, now let's look at the question that is going to assist us then to explain then what we are talking about when we look at the practicality of it. So they say now ABC Limited manufactures a product in a single process. The company uses a process costing system. Units placed into production were 40,000, while units completed and transferred were 38,000. Closing working process was 30% complete with regards to labor and 40% with regards to manufacturing overheads. Material is added at the beginning of the process. Opening working process was 5,000 units, 50% of the labor and 60% of manufacturing overheads were completed during the previous reporting period. Now you could notice here, guys, okay, we've got the opening balance here as well as your closing balance. So you need to apply a certain method that is between your weighted average and your first in, first out. The following cost incurred in the process: one, material 50,000, labor 40,000, and manufacturing overheads 30,000. The cost of opening inventory were 20,000 in total, consisting of material of 4,000, labor is 10,000, and manufacturing overheads 6,000. Then they say now prepare a production cost report using weighted average method. Secondly, prepare the very same production cost report, but now using first in, first out method. So that's what we have then to look at. But how are we going to do then our report now using the two methods? Now that we've got an opening and the closing. So the first thing then that you need then to also have a look at it. Okay, now what process are you reporting for? Is it then the process one or the second process, third process, or the last one? The mere fact that they are saying here units placed into production. is 40,000. Then that automatically tells us, okay, we're doing it for the first process here. Because if then it was the second process or third, it was going to the units received from the previous production. So that's how then you know that. So then that's going to assist you in terms of knowing then what how many columns are you going to open up then in your quantity schedule. Sorry for that. So firstly, we said that we're using weighted average method. Then we start then with our quantity. The quantity schedule. We've got our input, our details, output, then we move on then to the equivalent units. So in this case, then we unfortunately then are going to open then separate them, because we've noticed when we look at then between labor and manufacturing overheads, if you look at the opening, we're sitting at 50% in terms of your labor and 60% in terms of your manufacturing overheads. But as same applies when you look at your closing, is 30% completed by the labor and 40% completed by your overheads. So you can't match and say that we'll just simply have e-conversion cost. You need then to keep them separate. So we'll have then direct material, direct labor, manufacturing overheads. Remember then the linked column for the percentage. That we need then to accommodate here. So we start now here with the opening balance. Before then we go there, let's start then doing then our production line. I think then I want then to instill then this use of a production line in your minds, guys. So let's first look at our production line, so that when we go then to the quantity schedule, we've got a better understanding of then what units and where then do we place them. So we do have then the opening then units here. If you look at your opening units, then opening work in process was 5,000 units, sitting at 50% in respect of your labor and 60% in respect of your overheads. We'll try then to place then those units in our production line. So we could see that we've got 50% in your labor and you've got your 60% in overheads. So then we've got this 5,000 as your opening. So the opening is between those 2%. I will just simply say that. So that's your opening in terms of then your labor. It's here. Manufacturing overheads, that's where it is. Then you receive then the new units. Units placed in the production were 40,000 units. And we completed and transferred 38,000. New units, 40,000. Then completed and transferred 38,000. So 38,000 units managed then to reach 100%. And remember, because we're using weighted average method here, by the time then we reach 100%, there's no distinction between your new units and your opening units. So you just look and say, okay, how many units completed? 38,000. Thank you. Then you go. Then you look again at your closing. Closing work in process was 30,000. I'm sorry, was 30% complete with regards to labor and 40% with regards to manufacturing overheads. Now, can you see then they've started and they tried then to be smart then for you, and they didn't give you them how many units do you have then in closing, but they just gave you then the percentages. Okay, you must know that in terms of then of your labor is 30% and 40% in your overheads. So we will show them that we're smart too. So 30% and our 40%. So that's where then we've got our closing. This is your labor. This is your overheads. So that's your closing. We'll calculate it. Don't worry. So we need then to look at the units that we have then in our pipeline. Hence, I always say that doing then this production line, guys, it helps you then to be able then to calculate your units accurately and know then what you have to do. Because if then they didn't give us, and now they didn't tell you about how many units you have in closing, but you are going then to work it out on your own. Because you know that, okay, you receive 40,000 units, and then you've got already in the production 5,000 units. So the total units that we have in our production, it was 45,000 units. And out of this 45,000 units, we've completed 38,000. So therefore, that tells you that, well, okay, the closing is 7,000 units. So we can put it then in brackets so that if then you want them to verify it, and you'll know that, okay, the 7,000 is minus. So where we'll say now 40,000 minus 7,000, then that gives you what? Then the 33,000 plus 5,000. Then it gives you the completed units of 38,000. Then you say, oh, I'm sorted, I'm good. Because they haven't said anything about losses here. So we don't worry, we assume that therefore there are no losses in this particular case. Yes, I can see then the hand, Cornelia.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, can you please, if you don't mind, can you please repeat the part about closing UE 7,000 between 30% and 40%, if you don't mind, please?
Okay. The 30% is the percentage that is completed by our labor. 40% is a percentage that is completed by manufacturing overheads of the very same units. That is your closing work in process units. Now the question here is, how many units then do we have in closing? That's what then the question didn't show then us. So we work out then that on our own. How did we work out then at the 7,000? So we first look at the units that we have in our pipeline. In our opening, we open up then with 5,000 units. So you take that opening of 5,000 units and add then the new units, which is 40,000. So you say, okay, this is the total units that I have then for this particular production period. I've got 45,000 units. Then how many units then did I manage to complete? It is given then for us. Well, okay, out of the 45,000 units, you've completed 38,000. So automatically then it tells you, well, okay, the number of units that have failed to complete, which is your closing working process, it will be the 7,000. So this is a 7,000 that is between the 30% and 40%. So it's your opening of 40,000 plus your production. Then in this case, instead of saying minus the closing, if you still remember how to calculate the cost of sales, but we are not going to say minus now the closing because we don't have closing, but we've got completed units. That will be then the sales if we can follow then that calculation system. So we simply minus within the 38,000. So it takes you to 7,000.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. So we go now to our quantity schedule with the full understanding then of what happened then to our production, and we'll simply just place then our units to according to their places. So we start then with the opening working process. So it is 5,000. Now, can you say then which side am I going to place that? So you make sure then you put that on the input side, that 5,000 units. Then units introduced in the production. Now you go then to your production line and look at the units that you have at 0%. Then is 40,000. Let me expand a bit here. I think I will need one more line. Then we've got then that. Then we look at the units completed and transfer then whether to the second process or to your finished goods. Units completed, then we start then going into output side. You don't even go then to the question. You've already made your life easy. Go down then to your production line, look at your completed units. You've got then your 38,000. And the 38,000 then I will feature everywhere at 100%. Because we say that this is completed, therefore it's 100% everywhere. Then the next units that we haven't reported, let's add here, we've got a total of 45,000. We must have then 45,000. 45,000 also in the output. So we look at our closing working process. We've already calculated it, but then if then you didn't do then the production line, because you know that your total in the output must be 45,000 again, you will simply say, okay, let me take my 45,000, which is the total, and minus and the 38,000. Then it was going to take you again then to the 7,000 units, which is then your closing working process. In material, because the statement said that the material was added at the beginning, if you look at the 2 percentages then here, there is no material. So material was added at the beginning. It means that right here at 0%, all the material to complete the 40,000 was given then to you in your production. So the mere fact that then you fail to complete to 7,000 units, that has nothing then to do with material. We've already purchase the material and send to the production. So in your material, we will report then the 100% because of that. But coming then to the labor, we will report then 30%. Okay, the labor is done 30% and the conversion is done now 40% to the 7,000. Then, which is the reason why then the 7,000 units is the closing. We cannot transfer it to the next production process. So the 30% that we've done as a labor then is going to be represented by 2,100 units. And the 40% will be represented by 2,800 units. So you could see, guys, and when it comes to weighted average method, even if then we've got an opening balance, there's not much change when we do then our quantity schedule. So here is going to be 40,100. And here will be 1,000 plus 2,800, 40,800. So that's how then you are going to produce your quantity schedule. So it's going to be look like that. Hope then it's clear then to everyone. So let's quickly move on then to the cost statement. Again, we're not going to change anything then in respect to then of then the columns. We're still looking at the total cost. You look at your equivalent units and your cost per unit. Is still then the same. Again, then I will say then a direct material, direct labor, manufacturing overheads. But now remember, guys, and we said we are talking here about weighted average method. So when we talk about the weighted average method, then we will see then that combination of the cost. So we said, okay, we'll go and look at the cost at the beginning. But how much then was the cost of your opening? The following cost incurred in process one: material 50,000, labor 40,000, and manufacturer was 30,000. The cost of opening inventory were 20,000 in total, consisting of 4,000, 10,000, and 6,000. So these are the costs, and we will merge again then this cost. So for your material, what you are going to do, you send in the opening here, I've got 4,000. Then plus then the current cost of process one of 50,000. Then come here, I believe it, no, 10,000. The direct labor, I think it was 10,000 in the opening, if I'm correct. We'll verify that. Yes, it is 10,000 if you look there, plus then the current cost of 40,000. Then manufacturing overheads is going to be 6,000 plus the current cost. Current cost is 30,000 as per then the question. So that's what then we have then to do. That's what then weighted average method means. So that's where then we combine the cost. So you ended up having then a year 54,000, 50,000, and 36,000. And add that to have a grand total 54,000 plus then your 50,000 plus your 36. So I've got a total of 140,000 equivalent units. Then from the quantity statement, that's where you'll go and check then your equivalent units. Direct material is 45,000 units, 40,100 in labor, 40,800 in your manufacturing overheads. 40,100 and 40,800. I'm sure by now you see the danger then of these guys, but it accumulates. So the statement, the first statement, then leads then to the another statement. So you can imagine then if then your equivalent units, you've calculated them wrongly then in a quantity schedule, they are going to spoil then your cost per unit calculation when it comes then to your cost statement. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. I can't say then you were close. So the cost per unit here is going to then up be 1 rand, 20 cents. Then 50,000, you divide it by 40,100. Then it gives us 1 rand 25 cents. 36,000, we divide that by 40,800. And that one gives you 88 cents. Add again the cost per unit. $120 plus 125 plus then the 88 cents. So we've got a total of 3 rand 33. So that's how you draw up then your cost statement. Then we move on then to the last statement, which is allocation statement. Once again, as I've said, that when you draw up then your allocation statement, you are going to be guided by your quantity schedule, the output column then of your quantity schedule. When you look at that output, the very first units that you see then is 38,000 units. And check at your details column, you'll see, okay, now these units were my units completed. So again, that's going to be the starting point. Units completed, 38,000 units. Once again, because then is there at 100% everywhere, so you can simply multiply this by 3 rand 33. Then it gives you a total of 126,540. When you go again to your quantity schedule and check, then the next units and after 38,000 is 7,000, and it was your closing working process. So we'll move on then to now our closing working process of how many units? There are 7,000 in total. However, then we have to do a separate calculation here. Direct material, because the percentage of completion is not the same. Direct labor and your manufacturing overheads. In the direct material, then when you check your quantity schedule, then you'll save 7,000. And here then it's going to be 2,100 and 2,800. Multiply then by the cost per unit from your cost statement, 120, 125, and 88 cents. So 7,000 times 120, and it gives us here 8,400. 2,100 times 125. Then on this side, it gives us 2,625. The last one, 2,800 times 88 cents. You've gotten your 2,464. Then we add the 3 then to arrive then to a grand total of your completed, your value of your closing working process. 8,400 plus 2,625 plus 2,464. Then it's going to be 13,489. Then I will add that to 126,540. 540. So it gives us 140,029. So don't worry about 10 out 29. It's the issue then of round offing once again, because we did the round offing when we were doing the cost per unit calculation. But under normal circumstances, so in a perfect world, it was supposed then to be 140,000 as it is here in the cost statement. So then that's how then you do then the reporting then if we're using weighted average method. I hope then that one is clear. So without wasting then our time, then let's move on, the guys, then to be of our question. If you remember then the question or the second bullet point, because it was not B. It says then prepare a production cost report using first in, first out method. So it means again using the very same information, but we just change now the reporting method. So we will see then what's the difference between first in, first out and weighted average method, as it was suggested before that are now first in, first out. So it means then we firstly complete then our first in units. So we want then to see that again then when we do then our report. So again we start then with quantity the quantity schedule. Input details, output, your equivalent units. Then we've already noticed that we have to keep them separate, direct material, then direct labor, manufacturing overheads. Now let's go again then guys with our production line. I think it's going to be very important again here. So we've got the opening of then those units, things are. So quickly go and check here. $5,000 units, 50 and 60%. So we've got this opening of 5,000 units. And we receive then the new units of 40,000 at the beginning. Then again, we've got a closing that we know that is sitting between 30 and 40%. Closing, we've already calculated and we know that it is 7,000 units. There's no change then on that. Then coming then to the completed units. So our completed units here is 38,000 in total. Now, can you hear then what I'm saying? I've said that our completed units in total now is 38,000. But now because we're using first in, first out, by the time we reach 100%, we can clearly identify then our first in units, because we say that the first in units is going to be then the first units that are to go out. So if then we've completed with 38,000, therefore it means that, okay, we are confidently sure that out of this 38,000, 5,000 was from the opening. We have then to indicate that. Then and you said, okay, therefore the remaining units, and that is then 33,000 is the completed units from the current production. That is 40,000. So that's how then you are going to report now your output column if we are using first in, first out. So that's the change now that we're talking about. Whereas we said that in average method, we just simply combined. By the time we reach 100%, we can then distinguish between the two. That is your opening and your current units. But under first in, first out, then we do. So look now, how are we going then to present that then to our, yes.
Can you please repeat that? The AFE4 method, how do we do it?
Okay. So this is what we're doing then, how we run our production. Remember then we've got the opening units as in 5,000, sitting between 50% and 60%. So it's the beginning of our production period. Simply means that then the units that we're going to start with between 5,000 and 40,000 is 5,000. Because then 5,000 was our first in units. So if then in the exercise they are saying to you, this is the total of what you've completed. You've completed 38,000. You will know that, okay, it means that the 38,000 is made by 5,000 first, because then it was my first units then to be in the production. So therefore, I'm expecting then this 5,000 to be the first units, tend to reach 100%. Then if then your total completed is 38,000, then you are confident, sure, okay, 5,000 is fully complete. Then the difference between 38,000 and 5,000, which is 33,000. Therefore, those units are from 40,000, which then you can prove that by taking 40,000 minus 7,000, which is your closing. It gives you straight 33,000. Now we've started and talking about process costing. Is that clear now, Cornel?
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now let's go and present. You are going to be more clear than when we present the information on the quantity schedule. Once again, I will start then with the units. Units then are introduced in the production process. Is going then to be 5,000. Oh, wait. Why then don't you stop me there and there? It can't be the units introduced. Opening is the opening balance of 5,000. Then are followed by the units introduced then to our production process, which is equal to 40,000. And that gives you a total of 45,000. Then I put that also then to your output column, that 45,000 to be safe. Then we look at the completed units. So we need then to see our completed units appear as we've structured here, just after then that 100%. So we are going then to say completed units from opening. Then you put it in the output of 5,000. Here's a question now, when we move then to the material. Was there any percentage that was not completed by the material in the previous production period? That makes then 5,000 to be a closing balance in the previous production period. The answer is no, guys. I'll tell you what. Because there is a statement in the question. That helps us to be comfortable to say that. Let's go and check then to that statement in the question so that you can be clear then with what we are talking then about why we are saying that then there was nothing then short then in terms of our direct material. Look at this statement where it says here, material is added at the beginning of the process. So that statement is very key. So it tells you that the mere fact that we had then the closing balance in the previous production period, it was not because of material. All the material that was needed was there already. We've already put in the material. So then we've got 0 now when it comes into material. How about then the labor? The labor just completed only 50%. That is why then we have got then a disclosing of 5,000. So if you are saying now the 5,000 is completed, so you are saying then to us, our labor then have completed their remaining 50%, which is going to be represented by 2,500 units. Coming then to manufacturing overheads, they have only completed 60%. So if then it is complete now, the units have they've completed the units. It means that they've completed their remaining 40%, which is going to be 2,000 units. So now can you notice, guys, that when we report then at the opening, we report the percentage that was to be completed. Whereas then when we report the closing, we report the percentage that is done currently. So that's the difference between the two. So please then take note then of that. But that's the change then that we're going to start to see. So once again, we come again have another completed from the current production. You've already calculated and made then your life easy and say it is 33,000. Now this 33,000 is from this 40,000 units. So we've started then with 40,000 units from 0%. So it means that then we've moved from 0% to 100% with 33,000 units. So in your material, it's going to appear at 200%. As well as in your labor and in your manufacturing overheads. It's going to appear at 100% because they've started from 0 up to 100%. You can only, guys, only then to this column, output column, and add and have then your total completed of 38,000. There is no need to add then the other columns. Then we move on and take into account the closing. Our closing working process. So we've got then that 7,000. Now there's no change, and when it comes to the closing, it's going to be 7,000 in the material 100%. Now, can you see the reason why then in that opening we didn't put it anything? Because we've already put it here 100% when it comes to our direct material. So coming then to the next production process, when this 7,000 is no longer a closing but an opening balance, then there's nothing again then you're going to put in your direct material because the entire 100% was already reflected in the closing balance. But then in your direct labor, then we place 30% and here 40%. Then which was going to be 2,100 and 2,800. That's your first in, first out. So you've got the 33,000 plus then the 7,000. So it gives you 40,000. So it has nothing then to do with that opening of 5,000 then your direct material column. Then your labor, they have completed, and then they are 50% and 100% of the current units, which is 33,000, plus then what the 30% that they've done to the current units, which is then at the closing. So it's going to be 37,600. Then 2,000, then your manufacturing overheads plus 33,000. Plus 2,800. Then it gives you 37,800. So that's how then we will draw up then our quantity schedule. And we move on then to the next one, the cost statement. Again, you look at your total equivalent units and your cost per unit. Then if you still remember, in the weighted average method, we've combined the cost of your direct material, direct labor, and your manufacturing overheads. So one, I would ask, well, how are we going to do here? Because it's first in, first out. So under first in, first out, we keep then now the units separately, as we did then if you go and check your quantity schedule. So once again, we need then to keep separate also then the cost. So what we'll have here then is what then we call it cost. We'll have then the cost to date. So which is going to be that total of I think is 10,000 in total. We can go and check anyway. The cost then of opening inventory were 20,000 in total. I've made a mistake. I thought it's 10,000. So it's that 20,000. So we just put in that 20,000 as it is, and you are not going to calculate the cost per unit then for that, because we don't have the quantity schedule of the previous period. So we can't use the current one and say that we do have the equivalent units. No, we don't. We're just putting then this one because we need to accumulate the cost. If then we can left it out, then that will mean then we're going to report then the less cost than what we incurred. Then you've got your direct material, then your direct labor, and your manufacturing overheads. Think it was 50,000 if I'm not mistaken. Let's check it and others. The following costs incurred in process one: material 50,000, labor 40,000, and 30,000. Yes, I'm correct. 50,000, then you've got 40,000 and 30,000. So once again, the total will be 140,000. There will no change. Then I will look at our equivalent units. Equivalent units here, I think now is goes down to 40,000. Yes, it's 40,000 in your direct material, and it's 37,600 in your direct labor, 37,800 in your manufacturing overheads. $37,600 and 37,000. $37,800. So that's where then you take then your equivalent units, and you use then those units then to calculate your cost per unit. 50,000 divided by 40,000. So it gives us R1.25. Then again 40,000. And we divide by 37,600. So you'll have then here R1.06. And 30,000 divided by 37,800. Now here it gives us 0.779. 125 cents plus 106 cents plus your 79 cents. We've got cost per unit of R3.10. And we can go into then our allocation. Once again, then when we draw up the allocation statement, we always end up being guided by the output column of your quantity schedule. So once again, when you check then our output column, let's go and check in there. We've got to 5,000, and that 5,000 was your completed units from the opening. So that's going to be your starting point. So it's going to be completed from opening, and it's 5,000. Because then it's not appearing then at this 5,000 at 100% everywhere. That is in your material, labor, and overheads. You have then to do the calculation separately. But then don't forget that for this opening, we've already have then the cost then to date as we've indicated it in the cost statement. But we've got the cost to date then for this opening, which is sitting at 20,000 already. So whatever then that we're going to do in the current production is going to be then add on then to that 20,000. So when we do then our allocation, then I will start again with our cost to date of 20,000. Then plus then what we call it cost to complete. Then our cost then to complete was then on indirect labor and in your manufacturing overheads. Direct labor is 2,500 and here 2,000. If you check the cost per unit, directly R1.06.79. So those are the cost per unit that we're going to use. So we've added 2,650. 2,000 times 79 and also 1,580. Now we can safely say that on these 5,000 units, your material is there at 100%, labor is there at 100%, and your manufacturing overheads is there at 100%. And they give you a total of how much? 50 plus 1,580. They give us a total of 24,230. Then we go back again. We're almost done, guys. Maybe then Ulina is indicating then to me that you are taking too long. We're almost done, Lena. We're in the allocation statement. Then let's look, go and check again the next unit standard that we have. And the next unit standard we have is 33,000. And these units are your completed from the current production. And unfortunately with this, then everything is there at 100%. So we'll take that completed from current, which is going to be 33,000 times 3 rand, 10 cents from the cost per unit. So I don't know, on my side here, it's freezed now. I can't see then what I'm keeping on doing. I'm sorry if then that's the case also then on your side. Then it's going to be 33,000 times the total cost per unit of 3 rands 10 cents. Then it gives us 102,300. Once again, if you can go and check then to your quantity statement output, the next unit is 38,000, which is your total completed units. And then to work out then that total completed units, guys, then we just add then the two. We just add then the 5,000 and 33,000. So do the same thing again in the allocation. Don't multiply anything. Total completed 38,000. Then just add then the two values. Add here 24,230. So you'll have 126,530. That's going to be your cost. Going again then to the output column, the next units and the last units that we have, that is 7,000, which is your closing work in process. Then we take that. Closing work in process of 7,000 units, direct material, direct labor, and your manufacturing overheads. Is 7,000 in your direct material. Then you've got 2,100 here and 2,000. This is 2,800, I think so. Times then the cost per unit. Cost per unit of 1 rand 25 and 1 rand 6 cents and 79 cents. So 7,000 by 1 rand 25. 8,750. 2,100 times 1 rand 6 cents. Then it's going to be 2,226. 2,800 times 79 cents. 2,212. Then we add again the 3. 8,750. So they give us the total of 13,188. So you can have and add in your total cost. Ideally, it was supposed then to be 140,000, but let's see what figure then do we have. 126,530. So you see that it's give us 139,718. So once again, it's because of the round offing that we're keeping on doing on the cost per unit calculation. So it causes then our figures not to be the same. So that's how then we produce our quantity schedule. Or our allocation statement. So using first in, first out. So I hope then you'll be able to see then the difference between the two method. And that's where then we're going to stop then our today's session. The next thing then, guys, then I think Friday, I'm not sure then there is a function that I will be attending. I'm not so sure yet, but I will confirm then with your class types. If then it's a success, then I won't be available Friday. But if it's not, then I will have then the class as usual. But next week, Wednesday, guys, then we are going to sit for our first test. Next week, Wednesday, is going to be chapter 9 and chapter 12. Chapter 12 will cover then from what we've done up until then to date. Because I think then Friday, if we did have a class, then it would be a matter of doing more tutorial exercises on what we've already done. So that's it. So I understand that then our test is going to be on Moodle. Make sure then your Moodle is working. If not, then please do inform me so that we can fix that. I don't want us on the test day then to have many issues then to attend to. Except then the one of a test. So that's it then for our today's session. Now we still have then to introduce the losses, so which is something then that we are going to talk about after then we have done now the test. So we will see more how then to do then the losses and all those things. So that's it. Thank you then for attending then our today's session. We have come then to an end of it. Yes.
Test it's going to be based on chapter 9 and 12.
Yes, chapter 9 and 12. The two chapter.
Oh, okay.
Pleasure.